What's up, everybody? Welcome back for episode 7. We did it. The first week is in the books, and I'm still alive and still kinda sane, as much as usual. Today we're going over Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, which is one of my absolute favorite in the entire Godzilla franchise. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. I'm Jared Fearing. I'm a lifelong Godzilla fan and a big fan of Halloween. And nothing says Halloween like monster movies. So this year, for the month of October, we're going to review every single Godzilla movie, from Gojira all the way to Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire. So join me this month for a new video every single day and see if I go insane in the process. Let's get to it. This movie was originally called Godzilla, Ebirah, Mothra, Big Duel in the South Seas, and eventually Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, and now Ebirah, Horror of the Deep. If you find the film on a streaming service like Tubi, it's under the name Ebirah, Horror of the Deep. Ebirah is one of my favorite monster designs because he's literally just a giant goddamn lobster. There's nothing really special about him, just a big old lobster that's Godzilla sized. Love it. This movie marks a decidedly different direction for Godzilla. This movie, and especially the next one, have a very different tone in that this kind of introduces Godzilla as a protector, where we started to see that in the previous movies, but in this one, he's straight up a good guy. For the next two movies, there was a major shift in the creative side of things. Most of these Godzilla movies to this point have been made by Ishiro Honda, who's very famous for the original. Honda was replaced for these next two films with Jun Fukuda. Akira Ifukube, who's responsible for some of the most famous Godzilla music of all time, including the original theme, was replaced with Masaru Sato, who had gained fame for working on a lot of Akira Kurosawa movies. Eiji Tsuburaya was replaced with his assistant because Tsuburaya had become so popular with his own company that he needed somebody else to do the job, and he was replaced with Teisho Arikawa. A lot of these changes are immediately noticeable. For example, in the music side of things, there's much less of the Godzilla theme and booming heavy musical score in favor of a surf-inspired soundtrack. The movie takes mostly place on a deserted island, so the whole surf motif I kind of like, and it really paints it as a good summer movie. The movie opens with the main character's brother gone missing in the South Seas. And how is he going to find a way to search for him? He wants to enter a dance competition, which they say in the movie has been going for 3 days straight. This is the most 60s thing I've ever heard of. A dance competition that goes for multiple days. It's insane, and I love it, and people would definitely die if we did this today. The competition is already underway when he arrives, though, and so he can't enter, and his friends, wanting to make him feel better, take him down to the piers to see some boats. They go inside one of the boats that appears to be primed to sail the seas, and they encounter its owner, who quickly says they can sleep the night in order to, enjoy the boat. He goes from being mad at them for being on the boat to saying they can stay the night within literally 2 sentences. That's a little bit insane, but whatever, it's just a MacGuffin to the next scene where they all wake up and they've set sail and are in the middle of the ocean. The boat that they've stolen crashes in a giant sea storm that is, it's maybe caused by Ebirah. The boat gets sunk by Ebirah, but I don't really know if the storm is caused by him. It's kind of ambiguous, but he seems to show up in the storm, so maybe it's kind of implied that he does control it. But anyway, they get washed up on a deserted island, or so they think it's deserted. It really turns out that it's under control by a terrorist organization called the Red Bamboo, who are constructing nuclear weapons. They've got this island as their perfect hideout because they've constructed a yellow liquid that looks like orange juice and looks super delicious. I would definitely drink the Ebirah juice. And they spray it into the water and it keeps Ebirah away. So it's a really interesting comic booky G.I. Joe kind of plot setup, and I really enjoy it. As the stranded sailors, or wannabe sailors, try to avoid the Red Bamboo, they run all over the island and they eventually come to a cave where Godzilla is seemingly unconscious at the bottom. This kind of plays into the future movies in that Godzilla the legendary one specifically, Godzilla takes on another creature and then goes to sleep to recover. Which I guess makes sense. He's supposed to be a giant, super destructive monster. It would take a lot of energy. Him going into hibernation, no issues with. But the real reason is that Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster was actually conceptualized as a King Kong movie. And it was going to be the Japanese King Kong who we never saw again after King Kong vs. Godzilla. Later in this film, they actually wake Godzilla up by using a sword as a lightning rod to transfer a lightning bolt down to wake up Godzilla with electricity. This goes back to King Kong vs. Godzilla, when King Kong is powered by the lightning and by electricity. It's an interesting thought to think that this was a King Kong movie originally, because there's a few other scenes. Godzilla seemingly has kind of a semi-romantic scene with one of the women. Again, King Kong motif. Godzilla fights a random gigantic turkey vulture bird thing. Again, great villain for King Kong. You can see how this was a King Kong movie and it got repackaged as a Godzilla movie. And, a big-ass lobster is probably a better villain for King Kong than Godzilla, who's been fighting Rodan, whatever we want to call Rodan, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Anguirus. Like, the villain base of Godzilla is a little bit more high quality than the villain base of King Kong, which is usually like snakes and regular dinosaurs. Once they revive Godzilla, he basically destroys the entire Red Bamboo fortress. The Red Bamboo escapes into the ocean, hoping to spray their goo out and keep Ebirah away, but secretly, the people that they've enslaved to make the goo/juice have taken out the key ingredient, and it's a fake batch. Ebirah is like, screw you guys, and immediately crushes them. Red Bamboo's destroyed, and then Godzilla takes to the ocean to beat the shit out of Ebirah. It actually has one of my favorite silly scenes where Godzilla and Ebirah knock a stone back and forth in kind of like a weirdo patty cake thing. It's silly, but I really like it. And they also have an underwater scene that is the first in the series, showing Godzilla fight Ebirah under the waves. It's done with filters and a little bit of actual water photography, but it looks pretty good. I enjoy it, even though it's like fun hokey. This movie is criminal of one thing though, and that is that the American dub is one of the worst dubs I've ever heard. The voices are so cartoonish and bad, but it wasn't always this way. I used to own this movie on VHS, and god damn it do I regret losing that VHS, because the VHS version had a fantastic dub. And now, since it's been released on DVD, the new DVD dub is terrible. I really dislike it. And if you watch this movie streaming on something like Tubi, or if you have the Criterion collection like me, they only feature the Japanese language version. So the one good dub of this film really does seem to be lost to time unless you have the VHS version. Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster embarks on, like I said, the more family-friendly kind of protector Godzilla that you'll especially see in this movie and the next Son of Godzilla. It's a different direction, but it's really fun. These are the movies that are a little bit more friendly to children, and you could see on like a Saturday afternoon. People aren't getting shot necessarily and gushing blood like the previous film. So for that reason alone, and the high enjoyability of Ebirah just being a silly-ass lobster, I highly recommend this movie. It's one of my favorites in the entire series, so of course I highly recommend it. Enjoy Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. Hey everybody, as always, like, comment, tell me below what you think of Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, and come back next time for Son of Godzilla. I'll see you next time.